Welcome back to App Stories. This very special iPad review episode is brought to you by Concepts, the Infinite Canvas app. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Mac Stories Editor-in-Chief, Federico Viticci. Hi, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You have really pulled a classic Ticci with two big stories today. We're going to talk about one of them now.
Well, the second one isn't out yet, but it will be.
I know, but here I am. I mean, it's I'm living in the past or the future. I don't know which one it is. I know already that you've got two stories, and I've got one today, and this is the first that we're going to talk about because Apple sent you a couple of review units to look at. You got an iPad Pro 12.9 inch, and we can go through the specs of that one in a minute, as well as I don't even know what to call it. I guess we just call it the new iPad. It's the 10th generation iPad. It's not, I guess it's kind of technically the base model, but it's not really because the 9th generation one is still out there too for, I think, $329, kind of anchoring the school market and all that stuff. But this is really the new, I guess, core or base iPad in the lineup.
Yes, this is exactly what Apple sent me. Both the 10th generation iPad in blue with a Magic Keyboard Folio with an Apple Pencil first generation. So this is an accessory. I remember getting my first Apple Pencil review unit in London in November 2015.
I remember that too.
And 7 years later, here we are again. I just got an Apple Pencil
2015 unit. Called and once you give you an Apple Pencil,
But in addition to an Apple Pencil 1, all the way back from 2015, I also got a brand new, what's the official name? I forgot, but it's basically the little dongle that you need to, use the adapter that you need to use if you want to pair the Apple Pencil 1 with the new iPad, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes. I also got an iPad Pro 12.9 inch with M2. This is a 1 terabyte Wi-Fi and cellular space gray. Unlike last year's silver review unit, there's a Magic Keyboard, and Apple always likes to send the Magic Keyboard in white,
which
is my least favorite color of the Magic Keyboard, just because it gets dirty so quickly and so easily.
Did you see that press release where they had archaeologists using the white Magic Keyboard?
Good luck with that.
In a hole in the ground digging around. I saw that.
In Pompeii, right? In Italy.
Right, yeah, that's right. It was Pompeii, and I was thinking, sure, that was very staged.
Yeah, not at all staged. But yes, so that's what they sent me, and I think I kind of want to start from the iPad Pro, because I think it makes for an easier story.
And I want to ask you about it, because I want to know, I guess, just first off, if you put this right side by side by another space gray iPad Pro 12.9, can you tell the differences if they're both brand new?
Not from the front. They are exactly the same. They have the same body, the same chassis, basically. The same weight, same thickness. I believe it's the same enclosure. Really. They weigh the same. The only way to tell the difference is that the new one, in the back, the new one says iPad Pro, the old one says iPad. So
that makes it extra pro now that it says it right on the package.
Now it says it on the back of on its aluminum back. It says iPad Pro, and there's a picture in the story that shows this very important difference. But otherwise, I truly believe this is actually like the same physical enclosure.
Right, just a new chip.
New chip, new Wi-Fi and Bluetooth radios, and new iPad Pro logo printed on the back. But
right, because I guess that's the other hardware difference besides the M2 is that there's Wi-Fi 6E and what is it, Bluetooth 5.3?
Bluetooth 5.3, which I have no idea of what kind of hardware is, if any, on the market at the moment is using 5.3. I guess maybe some of the latest Bluetooth headphones.
I was going to say maybe some high-end Bluetooth headphones probably do.
Yeah, I guess maybe some of those headphones they use one of those new sort of quote unquote lossless Bluetooth standards, like the new
Hmm.
fancy LDAC standard or aptX HD, whatever it's called, the one that Qualcomm makes. I don't have any Bluetooth 5.3 compatible hardware. I don't have any Wi-Fi 6E compatible hardware.
Not many people do.
Not many people do. I have a Wi-Fi 6 system at home. You, John, have a 6E setup going on.
I do. Well, I haven't actually set it up because it's for the new house and I
Ah,
haven't installed it yet. I'm going to install it when we
okay.
move there soon. But I'm actually surprised that Apple went to 6C only because it seems it's very cutting edge for them in the sense that I think that there are very few devices that are taking advantage of 6C yet. I mean, I think there's some Android phones there's now this iPad, but there aren't that many things.
Yeah, I took a look at Amazon to see like how much would it cost me to upgrade my existing Wi-Fi 6 Orbi system to
It's a
Wi-Fi
lot.
6E,
It's a
and it
lot.
was like 1,700 euros. And I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do this to review an iPad, just out of curiosity. I'm perfectly fine.
It wasn't that much for me, but it was still a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, there's really not much to say about the iPad Pro. This is a spec bump update, which in and of itself, you could argue that it would have been nice to see Apple do something more, maybe on the iPad Pro side this year. It's been 4 years that we've lived with this design. And there were rumors, right, leading up to this announcement that Apple was going to experiment with a glass back instead of aluminum, that they were considering wireless charging and some other new charging related features. Those didn't come true, and you should never judge an iPad based on the rumors leading up to the iPad, just like with Nintendo Directs. You should never, set your expectations accordingly. You should never judge a
Right.
product based on the rumors that you think you knew leading up to that product. You should judge it based on what it is. And so I'm more annoyed, I think, at the lack of new accessories or updates to existing accessories, because the iPad is as much a computer as it is a thing that you pair with accessories. Like, the accessories are fundamental to the iPad story, to the iPad narrative, right? It becomes what you pair with it. And so to have, it's the same iPad after 4 years, just with new and improved specs, and the same Magic Keyboard after 2.5 years, despite all the feedback that Apple got regarding, I don't know, the size of the trackpad or the colors or the lack of a function row. I would have liked to see something new on the accessory front, and for sure something new on the Magic Keyboard front. And we didn't, but we're going to talk about that in a few minutes regarding what Apple did with keyboards on the other iPad.
I think the thing that's a little bit tough with the M2 is that when for instance, when Apple went to the M2 with the MacBook Air, there's kind of a meaningful difference there because there was more RAM available that you could get in some configurations, and the M2 and the Mac can just take advantage of that faster processor in ways that I kind of doubt that this iPad Pro really is, because a lot of those Pro apps aren't there. Although we did get news that DaVinci Resolve is coming sometime this quarter. So, I mean, I'm curious, have you noticed a real difference in the way the iPad runs for you and the kind of things that you
No,
normally do?
not really. It looks
I mean,
exact.
you're not exporting 8K video. I know you're
But
not that
that's
guy,
it. Like, I'm not exporting 8K video. I didn't even have the, like, this is the thing with these reviews, right? Unless that kind of test is exactly something that you do on a regular basis with your iPad Pro, then it's easy for you to, let me grab one of my existing LumaFusion projects and
Right,
see
right.
how fast it renders. I don't have an existing LumaFusion project. And I got this iPad on Thursday. So, it's these reviews, they got to happen relatively quickly. And you got to, get a broad picture in your mind and on the page in just a matter of a few days. And so that's one of the things that, as I mentioned in the review, I'm a writer. I deal with text, images, shortcuts. I'll leave that kind of benchmark to other people. But I'll tell you this: that the M2, if you maybe there's a, because I got this question from a few people leading up to the review, like, does the M2 make Stage Manager any better on the new iPad Pro? And the answer is no. The Stage Manager is as problematic and as glitchy or whatever as it is on the M1 iPad Pro. So the M2 doesn't really make a difference there. And everything else, I mean, the iPad Pro with M1 is already plenty fast for everyday interactions. I mean, arguably, a 2018 iPad Pro with the A12Z is still plenty fast for the. I mean, this will be a fun test. If someone secretly swapped my iPad Pro overnight with the 2018 iPad Pro, so that I wouldn't be able to tell the difference at a glance, I guess I would because of mini LED. But what I'm saying is, in terms of performance for the things you and I do, I don't think I would even notice if you gave me a 2018 iPad Pro. I guess the XDR quality would be the giveaway there, but still the point remains. For the kind of stuff that I do, I don't notice the performance jump from M1 to M2.
All right. Well, we did get with this iPad, though, one other feature, which was kind of a surprise. Tell me a little bit about Hover.
So Apple Pencil Hover. Going into this iPad Pro, that was the kind of thing that I thought, oh, this is exactly the kind of feature that I need to cover for the sake of being, comprehensive in my story. But it's not the kind of thing that I will ever use, right? Because I was basing my assumption on the kind of on how Apple presented the feature, saying this is a feature that is going to work great for artists and people who draw on their iPad Pros and people who take a lot of notes, and rightfully so.
Yeah, they love artists though in all those videos. They're very heavy on the artists and the airline pilots.
They really do. They really do.
And doctors, I guess.
And doctors and neighbors making slideshows and
right.
And spreadsheets for their other neighbors. So the Apple Pencil Hover. The idea is now the iPad Pro will detect the tip of the Apple Pencil within 12 millimeters of the display. So if you hover with the Apple Pencil over the display and you are roughly 1 centimeter within the display, you will see a preview of the selected tool. Let's say in a drawing app or in a sketching app, you will see a preview of a marker or a pencil or a Sharpie, whatever tool you're using. You will see a preview of that tool and the tool's color on screen before you actually touch with the tip of the pencil, the iPad's display. That is useful for a couple of reasons. One, you can preview your mark before you actually make it. And two, if you are in a complex drawing with tons of colors, you can switch colors and use the hover feature to preview how a color will mix in with an existing one without actually having to add it right to your drawing. So it serves as a preview tool for lines and for colors.
Because as I understand it, you can see both, not just the color, but you can also see like the thickness and the texture of the line too, right?
Yeah, you can see the thickness. You can see how big it'll be. You can see how an existing color on the page and the color that is hovering on the page will mix in and blend in together. So it's very nice. And it's, I think obviously this is not a new feature. Wacom tablets have offered hovering functionalities for years now. I believe there's other companies that also have tablets with hovering functionalities. But this is really well done in the context of the iPad Pro, because you don't need to buy a new Apple Pencil. It works with the second generation Apple Pencil. There's nothing else for you to configure. You just hover with the pencil in Notes or Procreate or other compatible apps. Linear Sketch, I think it'll also work there, and it just works. And it's very nice in that you can, as you get closer to the iPad's display, the line becomes more pronounced, and as you take the tip away from the display, the sort of the selected tool kind of fades away on screen
That's
to
cool.
tell you you're getting far away from me. Like that's really well done, and it's really polished.
That seems to me like it kind of answers the question I was going to ask you, which is it hard to know if you're in the right zone within that 12 millimeters?
Right. After a while, you just get a sense of how close is close, like you just, you try it for like 2 minutes and then you get it. It's like, it's like just above the display, basically.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and I should mention there are 2 settings that you can go. You can go in the settings app and you can just outright disable hover if you don't want it. And you can make sure that the double tap gesture, only works in hover mode. But the thing is, this feature really surprised me. Even though I just said I went into this thinking I'm never going to use it, it surprised me because I discovered that Apple Pencil Hover makes for a really great way to control the iPadOS UI in general. Not necessarily as a drawing and sketching tool, but as a in the review, I call it like a quote unquote super touch, like an addition to your fingers. When you're using the iPad in tablet mode, the pencil with hover becomes an extension of your finger that allows you to have access to hovering functionalities that normally with a finger you don't have, right? Because with your finger, you can hover with your fingers over the iPad's display. Nothing's going to happen, right? And that's what I discovered. So Apple has been really clever in how they built Apple Pencil Hover. It's based on the same API as the pointer and the trackpad, basically. So when you're hovering with a pencil, all of the hover effects that are normally work with the pointer, like with the Magic Keyboard, they work with the pencil out of the box for free. Like, you know how with the pointer, if you hover over a button in Safari, you get a little highlight and it selects and you get that with the Apple Pencil. Like, you get the same behavior. You can hover over home screen icons and you can see the icons react. You can hover, just like with the pointer on your Magic Keyboard. When you bring up a context menu, you can hover over the context menu and you can navigate the context menu just by hovering. So all of those functionalities, they work with the pointer and Apple Pencil Hover out of the box. So if you're a developer, your app will likely already support Apple Pencil Hover if you've done the work to integrate with the trackpad and the pointer. But my point is slightly different from this. What I really liked was using Apple Pencil Hover as an input method in addition to the touch of my fingers to gain access to features that normally, when I'm just holding the iPad Pro as a tablet, I don't have. For example, when I'm using the iPad Pro as a tablet and I'm in Safari and I have a bunch of tabs open, if I want to close those tabs and press the little X button to close them, I need to switch to them, right? With the pointer, when I'm using the iPad with the Magic Keyboard, I can close those tabs sort of in the background by just hovering with the pointer over the tab, even if it's not the current one. Click on the X button and close the tab. It's much faster because you don't need to move away from your current tab. You can just hover over the other tabs and close them. And with Apple Pencil Hover, you can do the same. Another feature, in Safari, you can hover, as of iPadOS 16, I believe, you can hover over a link on a page and you will see a little path bar at the bottom of Safari that shows you the full URL on hover. So you can see what the actual linked URL is without clicking it. And again, with a pointer, this works. When you're using the iPad with your fingers, it doesn't, because your fingers can hover. Or rather, they can, but nothing happens. And so with Apple Pencil Hover, that also works. So when you hover over a link in Safari, you see the full URL. And I have another example. I think Safari is really the kind of app where you will be able to test most of these hover functionalities. And that's because, the concept of hover and sort of hiding interactions behind the hover gesture has been really common in web apps and websites. True. Not so much in native apps, which I think will change going forward, maybe to an extent. Yeah. But a thing that I love to do is scrubbing on a video. So I'm on the YouTube website or the Netflix website in tablet mode. So I'm not using the Magic Keyboard. I'm holding the iPad Pro. With the pencil, you can scrub through a video and see a preview. Like, how when you scrub through a video, you see a preview of the frames from the...
Right. The little thumbnails that pop up.
The little thumbnails. But with the pencil, you can do that without switching your current position in the video.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's nice because you can keep watching a video, but in the meantime, scrub through and preview what's coming up, right? And this works on the YouTube website. It works on the Netflix website. And I love it. It's super well done. So these are just a few examples of Apple Pencil Hover. Like I said in the review, I think Safari makes for the more interesting demo here because you will likely find a bunch of websites and web apps that have a lot of features that you couldn't previously use with touch, but now with the Apple Pencil, you can. And so it's fun to think of the Apple Pencil and Apple Pencil Hover as this kind of new complement to your fingers when you're using the iPad Pro as a tablet.
This special iPad review episode of App Stories is brought to you exclusively by Concepts. Concepts is an iPad app that lets you sketch, explore, and share endless ideas with its infinite canvas. Designed for creators of all types, the app is ideal for visual thinking, note-taking, drawing, and professional design. On Concepts' infinite canvas, you can sketch, plan, and take notes, and never hit the edge of your page. Sketch freely with liquid pens, markers, and brushes in designer colors. As everything you draw in the app is a vector, you can edit and organize your sketches anytime after you draw them using natural hand gestures. Create mood boards with images, import PDFs and objects, and then draw right on top of them. Design with tools like grids, snap, and real-world measurements for professional projects. And connect your device to a display or conferencing app to whiteboard in Concepts automatic presentation mode. Concepts 6.0 just came out for iPad OS, and it's a great update. There's even a brand new icon, which I love a lot. It's a great orange color. So be sure to check out all of the incredible updates. I just used Concepts to lay out the floor plan of my new house, and it was perfect for that. You don't have to be an artist, but it's perfect for artists too. Concepts is used by designers and illustrators at Apple, Disney, PlayStation, Unity, and many other big and small teams globally to sketch, design, and communicate visually. Concepts is free for infinite sketching, and you can upgrade for powerful creative flexibility via subscription or a one-time purchase. Just visit concepts.app/MacStories to enjoy a special 3-month extended free trial. Again, that URL is concepts.app/MacStories. Our thanks to Concepts for their support of the show. Let's switch over to the 10th generation iPad. Okay. And I want to know, first of all, let's start with hardware, but I want to know about the color. I want to know about, you got blue. What's the blue like compared to some of the iPads you've seen before?
Oh, it's blue. This is a real blue color. And I can even imagine what the yellow and pink ones look like. If they're anything like this blue color, those are going to look great. This is a real color. It's blue, like in any kind of lighting conditions that you may be in. Like, it looks blue. It's not like the iPad Air that, like, depending on how the light hits it, it takes on this grayish hue.
Right. Like you have to be standing on a beach at noon, pointed the right direction, and
with the wind blowing to the northeast. And like,
and then it's a blue one.
No, this always looks blue, and it's really fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, I would love, like, this is real. See, Apple, this is a real color that you've done here. Good job. Now do these real colors everywhere else. Like, I love it. It looks fun. There's
they should do it like they do with the Apple Watch bands. They should just go crazy with the colors, I think.
Just go crazy. Why not? I mean, just I want to have a pink tablet. Why not? Why can I not be like I have a super serious iPad Pro, 2 terabytes, Wi-Fi and cellular, XDR, but it's pink. Let me do it. Just let me do it. I don't get it. Anyway, it's blue. I love it. It's so much better than the previous blue of the iPad Air, and it's one of the best colors that I think Apple has done to date, if not the best kind of blue that Apple has done to date. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the iPad 10, which is fun to say, iPad 10, iPad X, massive upgrade if you compare this to the 9th generation iPad, right? The iPad Pro industrial design from 2018 has finally trickled down to the base model iPad, but it's if you consider the iPad Pro as the grandfather of this design and the iPad Air as another branch of this family tree, this iPad is on that branch, on the iPad Air branch. If anything, right, this iPad is pretty much exactly the iPad Air from 2020 with the addition of center stage and a relocated smart connector. Because this, first of all, only slightly thicker than an iPad Air, same A14 Bionic chip as the 4th generation iPad Air from 2020.
By the way, I think it's kind of funny that the Apple TV has an A15 and this iPad has an A14.
I know, it's still on the A14. Same Touch ID button. So this is not the Face ID. Face ID is still exclusive to the iPad Pro. This one is Touch ID. But there are two big features about this iPad, which, by the way, is $120 more expensive than the 9th generation iPad, which is, as you mentioned, John, it's sticking around at $329, sort of as an introductory pricing for the iPad line, I guess, for education and folks who want to buy an iPad that doesn't cost $400. And that one still has the home button and the old design and a lightning connector. This one has switched to USB-C. And yeah, it's basically like an iPad Air from 2 years ago with a couple of additions. One of them, a landscape front-facing camera. So finally, yes, we have a webcam on the iPad on the right side. Because once again, as we said many, many times on App Stories, we believe that the majority of people, and especially people who bought an iPad during the pandemic because of remote working and doing Zoom calls from home, the majority of people are likely using an iPad in landscape mode. And in landscape mode, it's always been weird that the front-facing camera, that the webcam, was on the short side of the iPad, because you always ended up with this weird sort of from the chin up angles
and kind of to the side a little bit,
and kind of to the side a little bit, and it's always been weird. And now you have a front-facing camera with center stage that is facing you directly, just like on a MacBook. It's the right decision.
It's amazing to me. This is one of those hardware things that goes back to the very first iPad, when the iPad was very much oriented in portrait mode. They even did a keyboard stand that you were supposed to put your iPad in it in portrait mode. I mean, and this has survived that entire time.
Yeah. So I love this. This is absolutely the right thing to do, but I don't understand why it's not on the iPad Pro. I don't understand why. I guess the Apple Pencil magnetic connection may have been an issue there, but still, like, as a customer, I shouldn't have to care about those challenges. I would expect Apple to fix those challenges and to.
Would it fit on the short side though? Is there enough space for the Pencil 2 to fit on the short side of the iPad 10th generation?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious whether they could have maybe.
I mean, it fits on the iPad Mini.
Buttons.
It fits on the iPad Mini, so it'll fit here as well.
I would think so.
Still, I think it's very strange that you have a webcam finally in the right orientation on the base model iPad and not on the iPad called Pro for people who want to work with it. This iPad, also one of the things that I mentioned in the story, unfortunately, one of the pretty big downsides compared to the latest iPad Air, which I guess justifies the $150 difference, is lack of Apple Pencil 2 support. This iPad only works with the first generation Apple Pencil from 7 years ago, and it requires an adapter and a cable if you want to pair and charge the Apple Pencil with your iPad. It's kind of ridiculous. It's not the end of the world, but again, I think it's very strange that Apple, instead of making a new but cheaper version of the pencil that uses USB-C, instead of doing that, they preferred forcing you to use a pencil from 7 years ago with now a bunch of adapters, right? Because you got to use an adapter and a cable. So you got to have a whole thing going on instead of making a new but cheaper version of the Apple Pencil 2.
Yeah, the reason I asked about the Apple Pencil 2 fitting on the short side was because I kind of assumed that the reason the Apple Pencil 2 doesn't work on the long side is because of the camera hardware. But, I mean, only Apple knows that for sure.
Yeah. And lastly, the reason why I mentioned I would have liked to see Apple make a cheaper version of the Apple Pencil 2 is that because that's exactly what they did to bring a keyboard, a new kind of keyboard, to the base model iPad. Instead of saying, oh, just use a smart keyboard from 7 years ago, Apple made a new flavor of the Magic Keyboard that has both fewer and more features than the Magic Keyboard, which is very perplexing and sort of one of the key themes that I explore in the review. It's called Magic Keyboard Folio. It's a two-part design. It's not using the same floating sort of single piece design of the Magic Keyboard. This is a two-piece design. One of them is a flat cover that you attach to the back of the iPad and has a built-in kickstand that you can adjust and use to tilt the iPad upright and find the right viewing angle. And the other is a detachable keyboard that you place in the front of the iPad. Pretty much it looks like the Logitech Combo Touch or the Microsoft Surface keyboard. You have this cover in the back with a kickstand and a keyboard in the front that attaches to the bottom of the iPad with a relocated smart connector. Now, this keyboard, it's not backlit, but it's got a bigger trackpad. It's 1 centimeter taller than the trackpad on the Magic Keyboard at the 11-inch size. And it's got a full row of function keys. You have 14 function keys on the Magic Keyboard Folio.
I'm very jealous.
And the thing
so
is,
jealous.
It's a very nice keyboard to use. Now, mind you, still, if lap usage is your priority, the Magic Keyboard is still more comfortable. Because
what are the keys like? What are the keys like?
They're the
Are
same.
they more like
really,
the Magic Keyboard? Or they're like that kind of key?
Yeah.
Or like the cloth ones on the Folio?
No. They are the Magic Keyboard keys. They're basically the same keys. And it looks pretty much the same, only this one has an extra row and a bigger trackpad. So, sure, the Magic Keyboard, it's still more stable on your lap, right? Because of the floating single-piece design.
Sure.
Something that I do often is I lay down on the sofa, knees up in front of me, and sort of balance the Magic Keyboard on my lap like that. And because of the single-piece magnetic design, the iPad doesn't fall over because the Magic Keyboard is holding it in place. If you try and do that with the Magic Keyboard Folio, you're going to slap yourself in the face with an iPad, right? Because the kickstand just will fall over. It'll tip over if you do that. So lap usage, the Magic Keyboard is still more sturdy and it's more comfortable. But typing on this thing is pretty great. I mean, if backlit is if the backlighting is not a concern for you, bigger trackpad and function keys, oh my God, it's glorious compared to the Magic Keyboard.
I kind of wonder whether this is the iPad for people who would have maybe bought an iPad mini, but want to be able to type too, like do email and browse the web and stuff a little easier with the trackpad and a keyboard.
I really don't know. But this brings me sort of to the conclusion of this story and how I feel about these two iPads. That taken individually, these are pretty great iPads. The iPad Pro is a spec bump update.
Yeah.
Relatively boring, right? We can say that. But with one genuine surprise in the form of Apple Pencil Hover that I think has a chance to appeal to folks like me as well. So people who don't draw, people who are not artists, people who don't sketch, but people who want to use the iPad as a tablet, right, for productivity or just browsing around. I found myself grabbing the pencil more often than not because of having access to hover-related functionalities, and that was very nice. And the iPad, excellent upgrade for a base model iPad, more expensive than before, sure, but you also got a brand new design, USB-C. The Magic Keyboard Folio is super interesting as an accessory. It's not as stable as the Magic Keyboard, but it's also more flexible in the typing experience. So individually, these iPads make a lot of sense. And they're pretty great updates, right? Especially the base model iPad. And I think it'll make for a really nice portable iPad for media consumption, right? Because of that kickstand that, as I showed in the story, make sure to check out the pictures. I actually love holding that back cover, sort of like a giant pop socket, basically. But where I'm confused is right now in 2022 by the iPad lineup. When you zoom out and take a broader look at the entire lineup, my conclusion from the story is that I believe there's one iPad too many in the 11-inch range.
Yeah, they're all 11 inches and they're all about the same.
They're all 11 inches and they all look kind of the same. And they have these differences between them. And just to make sure that I wasn't losing my mind, I tried explaining these differences to Sylvia yesterday. And after 2 minutes, she was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like you have this 11-inch iPad Pro and the iPad Air and the iPad, and they all look the same, and they share a lot of common features, but some of them, they don't. And the accessories are not compatible, but they're similar. And I don't know. I feel like in that range, there's probably too much choice. And I understand that Apple wants to cover, what's it called? The price umbrella? Like they want to cover all the possible price points. But at some point you got to ask yourself, is that a little too much? Maybe like giving people
not at the price of confusing people. Because just imagine an ordinary person walking into an Apple store, seeing these 3 11-inch iPads and saying, which one should I get?
Yep.
To one of the people at the store, and I wouldn't want to be the person trying to explain that. I mean, that's not a short conversation.
No, it isn't. And I struggled, and I'm the guy who reviews iPads. So I wrapped up the story, and I will wrap up this episode as well by saying that I continue to believe that the 11-inch iPad Pro is no long for this world. It didn't get Mini LED XDR this year either. And I continue to believe in the theory that 11-inch iPad, the 11-inch iPad Pro should go. Apple should keep making 11-inch iPads for the mid-range, so the base model iPad and the iPad Air, and that would free up a slot in the Pro line, and the Pro line should go bigger. Make an iPad Pro 12.9 and make an iPad Pro Max or Pro Ultra. Make an iPad Studio that is 14, 15 inches.
Go all the way to 16, Federico.
Go all the way to 16. Why not? But I'll tell you this. On the iPad Pro 12.9, when you use display scaling in iPadOS 16, and you use the more space setting, the virtual resolution that you get, right? The increased resolution that you get, works out at the same PPI, so at the same pixels per inch, 264, that resolution is exactly 15 inches if it were to be a physical display.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe it means nothing, but I don't know. I would love to see remove that 11-inch iPad Pro from the lineup, reduce the confusion with these 11-inch iPads, and go bigger on the Pro line. So.
All right. Well, that's a great place to stop. Be sure to visit macstories.net to see Federico's iPad review. Thanks again to Concepts, our special sponsor for this special episode of App Stories. You can find the two of us over at macstories.net. Federico is Vitici on Twitter and Instagram. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHN VOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.